Not all pain is pain. Sometimes it's just your body trying to call you back, but it speaks softly, and we've learned to live in the noise. The noise of rushing, of I'm fine, of it's just normal for my age. But it's not. Not always. That stumble on the stairs, the fatigue that hits before midday, the struggle to get out of bed as if your body suddenly got heavier, those aren't just physical signs. They're unread letters, messages slipped under the door by a soul that's tired of screaming and not being heard. The body whispers because it still believes in you, because despite the silence you've made of yourself, life still pulses, still waits, still asks for a chance. And believe me, I know how exhausting it is to pretend nothing's happening. We get used to living almost. Almost well, almost energized, almost whole. But there comes a time when almost weighs more than what's missing, and the body, ever so patient, starts to speak louder. Fatigue isn't failure, but ignoring it might be. And maybe, just maybe, what's hurting inside you isn't the end. It's a call, a reminder that you're still here and that there's still time to come back to yourself. If you feel this gentle calling, this silent urgency, this body whispering things you don't want to hear, comment, I feel it below. You're not alone. I've been there too, and I want to walk with you in this quiet return back home. We learn to carry before we learn to let go, and over time, what seemed resolved just went quiet. Quiet, but never light. Some pain didn't come with age. It came with silence. It came with all the things you never got to say. That tension in your neck, for instance, might not be just your posture. It might be the weight of everything you've silently endured. That ache in your shoulder might not be just arthritis. Maybe it's the weariness of carrying everyone else's world without ever touching your own. And the discomfort in your back? Maybe it's just a reflection of a life lived outward but never inward. The body keeps it all, everything the soul couldn't let go. The swallowed argument, the postponed tears, the hidden fear, the longing you didn't have the courage to feel completely. And the truth is, the body doesn't want to punish you. It wants to protect you. But to do that, it needs to be heard. Maybe that recurring ache, the one you've grown used to, isn't asking for a pill, but for a reunion with what was left behind, with what you swept inside, thinking it would disappear. But the body doesn't forget. And what if the pain you're feeling is just homesickness for yourself? What is your body trying to show you that you haven't dared to see? Look gently, with care, without fear, because sometimes healing isn't about what's missing, but what you've avoided feeling. Some exhaustion doesn't come from the body. It comes from somewhere deeper, more forgotten. But we get used to it. Used to waking up with no drive, to going to sleep without real rest, to living on autopilot as if it's just part of getting older. But it's not. The body tries to warn us. Slowly, gently. It starts with small signs. An appetite that vanishes without reason, sleep that becomes too light, a lack of energy that makes no sense. And we say, normal. It's my age. It's life. But what's truly normal? And what's just neglect, dressed up as routine? Because some symptoms aren't physical. They're too emotional to be fixed with tablets. Sometimes the body is simply saying goodbye to a place where it's no longer heard. Kicker. And what if what you're calling getting older is just your body tired of not being felt? It's subtle, but it's real. There's a big difference between aging with presence and merely continuing to exist. One is a choice. The other is forgetfulness. And that's where the danger lies, in confusing survival with life, in accepting as permanent what only ever needed care. The body speaks, softly, but all the time. What you've been calling the end might just be a request to begin again. Even when the body slows down, the soul doesn't give up. It doesn't retire. It just learns to ask more gently. At 70, 75, or even past 80, the desire to live doesn't vanish. It just hides. Behind aching knees, the fear of falling, the worry of being a burden. But deep inside, the soul still dreams of mornings that make sense, of touch that's not just clinical, but tender. It still wants to dance. Even if now it's just swaying feet at the edge of the bed. It still wants to laugh, even if the voice comes out soft. It still wants to love, even if the hug needs more care. Because life doesn't stop when the body changes. It just asks for new ways of being heard. It's not about demands. It's about reconnection, a gentle stretch with the window open, a longer shower with music in the background, or just sitting in silence, hands over your heart, as if to say, I'm still here. And what if the body isn't failing, but simply waiting for you to return to it with more tenderness? Reawakening the soul isn't about pushing. It's about noticing that the body, even with its limits, is still a bridge. And every act of care, no matter how small, is a silent prayer that says, I want to stay. It insists. Even when everything seems to slow down, the body still tries to keep you here. Even when your eyes lose their spark. Even when the days all blur together. Even when the will to care fades away. The body doesn't abandon you. It gives signs. Small, persistent, a slight tingling, a pain that keeps coming back in the same spot, a tightness in the chest with no name, but full of stories. Sometimes it's just asking, see me with kindness, touch me with attention, don't leave me last. There's beauty in a self-care ritual, not as an obligation, but as a reclaiming. When you light a candle and take a deep breath, when you massage your feet before bed, when you pick an outfit that makes you feel alive. These simple acts speak louder than words. They say you still care. They say you still want to stay. And what if the touch you're missing is your own? When you treat yourself as someone worth staying, the body listens, the soul stirs, and life begins to taste good again. Even if the steps are slow, the path starts to open once more. Reconnecting with your body is rediscovering your will to keep living, only this time with more truth and more presence. Some people think caring for the body after 70 is vanity, but it's not. It's survival, with dignity. It's the chance to tell yourself, with every gesture, I still care about me. Even if your steps are small, they can still be steady. Even if your arms are weaker, they can still embrace yourself, others, life. Because it's not about doing a lot. It's about doing it with truth. Bit by bit, what once felt like routine becomes a quiet pact with the present. The hand that grips the railing becomes a symbol of courage. The glass of water when you wake up, a small yes to existence. The choice to step outside and look at the sky, a prayer with no words. And what if taking care of your body is just another way of saying, I still want to be here? You don't need grand promises. You need small daily pacts, listening to the fatigue without giving into it, welcoming the pain without surrendering to the end, because strengthening the body is also reigniting the soul. It's saying, with every cell, with every breath, I choose to keep going. And that's one of the deepest acts of love a person can show themselves. Not all pain is the end. Some arrive like someone knocking gently at your door, hoping to be noticed. The body whispers, because it knows that if it had to shout, it would be too late. And maybe everything you're feeling, that nameless sadness, that emptiness not filled by food or distraction or rushed prayers, maybe it's all just a calling to live with more presence, more lightness, more truth. The body, even tired, is still a shelter. The soul, even forgotten, still has roots. Today might be the day you decide to come back, to look gently at your hands, at your feet, at your own face in the mirror, not to chase youth, but to rediscover dignity, the dignity of someone who has lived and still wants to live a little more. And what if what still pulses inside you isn't fear, but a longing that hasn't been truly heard? As long as there's a whisper, life is still calling, maybe softly, maybe with pain, but still calling. And if you listen with care, with patience, with the courage of someone who's lost a lot, but still wants to feel what's left. It could be the beginning of a new pact. A pact between the body that holds you and the soul that still wants to bloom. You still have time. Time to return. Time to care. Time to live differently. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be fast. It just has to be yours. As long as there's a whisper, there is time. And there is hope.